When a prehistoric creature dies, the chances that its remains will be preserved for thousands, let alone millions of years, are extremely slim. All sorts of odds must be overcome to enable long-term preservation, and among all the animals that have ever lived on Earth, only a very small number will ever be discovered by humans. Nevertheless, there are places on the planet with conditions that allow the ancient carcasses of long-lost beings to stay intact. One such example is the Arctic, a region where permafrost, soil that has been permanently frozen for thousands of years, is melting and revealing the wondrous and strange prehistoric creatures trapped within it. Other locations, such as the cold, dark depths of caves, can also preserve some incredible things. So, let's explore 5 more examples of these amazing frozen discoveries. From baby woolly mammoth carcasses to microscopic animals that were still alive after 24,000 years, here are 5 strange prehistoric creatures found frozen in ice. First up, let's take a look at an astonishing mummified steppe bison dating back to potentially more than 50,000 years ago. The steppe bison is now extinct, but it lived across northern Eurasia and North America, and it is likely ancestral to the living American bison. This particular mummified steppe bison is remarkable for many reasons, not least of all because not long after it was discovered, a group of paleontologists gathered together, cut a bit of frozen meat from its neck, made a stew out of it, and ate it. All for science, you see. 50,000-year-old bison stew. Sounds appetizing. The specimen has been nicknamed Blue Babe, in reference to the legend of Paul Bunyan and his mythical giant blue ox, Babe. The mummified bison was indeed a blue colour when it was excavated, as it was covered in a chalky blue material that had formed when phosphorus in the creature's tissues reacted with the iron in the soil in which it was buried, giving it this incredible appearance. Blue Babe was discovered in Alaska in 1979, when a group of gold miners near Fairbanks noticed that a hydraulic mining hose had melted away some of the permafrost, revealing a body. Upon realizing what they may have just discovered, they contacted paleontologist Dale Guthrie at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, who came out to the site and determined that they'd uncovered a prehistoric bison. Excited by the incredible discovery, but concerned that it might decay now that it was exposed if they didn't act quickly, Guthrie decided to start digging it out right away. But there was a bit of a problem. Blue Babe was emerging from the permafrost back end first, and the head and neck were still trapped in the frozen soil. So, thinking quickly, the paleontologist beheaded the bison, leaving the head and neck behind, while they transported the body to the university and refroze it. Then they returned for the rest of the bison, excavating the remaining parts until they were eventually freed, and reunited the head with the body at the university. The stunning carcass has been the subject of much investigation, and with those perfectly preserved horns, including the actual horn sheaths, it's a marvellous creature to look at. Most of the hair is gone, but the skin is fantastically intact, and there's even still a layer of fat remaining, plus bone marrow was found to still be in the bones. Blue Babe has since been conserved and prepared by a taxidermist, and is still on display at the University of Alaska Museum of the North. Although initial dating efforts of the bison found that the body was about 36,000 years old, more recent research has shown that Blue Babe is at least 50,000 years old or even older. It's absolutely mind-blowing to think that this creature has remained in such good condition for this span of time. Researchers have even been able to make some inferences about how exactly Blue Babe perished all that time ago, as the body has claw marks on its rear, as well as punctures inflicted by teeth, seeming to indicate that this bison was likely the victim of an American lion, Panthera atrox. After killing Blue Babe, the lion tore the skin on the side of the bison's body and fed on its kill, as the muscle had been eaten in this region. There's also evidence of some partial scavenging on the carcass, as the bones have been displaced. However, Blue Babe died in extreme cold conditions, and the body must have quickly frozen after death, stopping any further scavenging. One way or another, the bison's body ended up at the bottom of a valley and was buried by sediment, which in turn froze solid, remaining encapsulated for over 50,000 years, until some humans came along and decided to turn it into stew. Classic humans. Next up, we're cheating a little bit as we take a look at some incredible discoveries that weren't technically frozen in ice. However, they were still mummified in very cold conditions. And they're so fascinating that I really wanted to feature them anyway. These are the stunning finds of mummified Upland Moa, a kind of giant, flightless, now extinct bird that once roamed across New Zealand. The Moa were a group of 9 different species of paleognath birds, close relatives of the still-living tinamous, and more distantly related to emus, cassowaries, kiwis, and rheas. Moa were truly impressive creatures. Although they were herbivores, the 2 largest known species, the South Island giant moa and the North Island giant moa, are estimated to have stood up to 3.6 meters or nearly 12 feet tall. Those were some big birds. Sadly, the moa were all wiped out following the arrival of humans in New Zealand during the 1300s, as they provided an important food source. This human-driven extinction is one of the most rapid megafaunal wipeouts on record, with all moa seemingly vanishing within about a century after humans arrived. However, the relatively recent extinction of these birds means that some extraordinary remains, still with soft tissue attached, have been discovered in places where conditions are amenable, such as in the cold, dry depths of caves. The moa species with the best preserved soft tissue specimens is the Upland Moa, Megaloterex didonus, a fairly small species that stood less than a meter tall and inhabited the South Island of New Zealand. It seems to have been one of the last moa species to survive the onslaught of humans, meaning that some of these mummies are only a few hundred years old. The first Upland Moa specimen to be scientifically described includes a desiccated head and partial neck, along with an admittedly rather creepy looking foot, with dried out ancient muscle and skin still adhering to the bone. This mummy is absolutely astonishing. The jaws are preserved eternally agape, and the whole thing does have a marvellously horrifying look to it. But thanks to the condition it was preserved in, it's possible to see all the tiny details of the feather pits in the skin across the head, indicating that it was covered in small feathers. The eyeballs, tongue, and part of the trachea are all still present. This remarkable specimen has been known about for a long time, originally collected from a cave near Queenstown in 1878, and subsequently sent to the London Natural History Museum, where it was described in 1883 and remains to this day. Several other desiccated mummified Upland Moa body parts have been recovered since then, including another remarkable partial foot found deep in a cold cavern at Mount Owen in 1987. A partial skeleton was discovered by a group of cavers, including this amazing looking foot with intact skin and some rather ferocious looking claws, which has been dated to between 3,300 and 3,400 years old. These findings of mummified Upland Moa are truly captivating. Yet they also serve as a rather sorrowful reminder of the vanished biodiversity from our recent past, as these now lost creatures lived so close to us in time that their skin still clings to their bones. So far, the frozen creatures we've looked at have been very dead ones. That makes sense considering how old they are. I mean, you wouldn't expect an animal to emerge from the permafrost after 24,000 years and start moving again, would you? Well, biology doesn't care about our human-centric preconceived notions of what is and isn't possible, because our next instance of a strange prehistoric creature is one that did, indeed, come out of 24,000-year-old permafrost and reanimate, and even started reproducing. Welcome to the world of rotifers, where nothing is as it seems. These particular prehistoric zombies are a species of bdelloid rotifer, microscopic little animals that live in freshwater bodies worldwide. Rotifers as a whole are incredibly diverse and exhibit a wide range of lifestyles. They get their name from a structure they have called the corona, which bears many small cilia that give them a rotating appearance when they move. Bdelloid rotifers specifically are rather worm-like in appearance and exclusively reproduce via parthenogenesis, meaning they reproduce asexually, by cloning themselves. These multicellular animals are renowned for their ability to survive in extreme conditions, being especially resistant to freezing, drying, low oxygen levels, and a lack of food. In 2021, scientists discovered another astonishing trick that these animals are capable of: surviving in a frozen state for more than 24,000 years. Scientists took samples from 3.5 meters below the ground surface in the middle reaches of the Alizaya River in northeastern Siberia, being careful not to allow any contamination of these ancient samples by more recent soils. Radiocarbon dating of the organic material in the same layer as the rotifers confirmed that the ice-rich soil had been deposited between 23,960 and 24,485 years ago. After extracting the permafrost samples, the scientists were amazed when these tiny organisms started to wriggle about, their bodies pulsating and coming back to life. It's like that 24,000-year-long nap was nothing to them. Watching the footage of this prehistoric rotifer moving about elicits an indescribable feeling. When this creature went into its frozen state, human civilization was but a distant dream, and mammoths still roamed the planet. Then it woke up in the 2020s, revived into a drastically altered world. Just think about all the prehistoric and historic events it was technically alive for. These ancient rotifers were found to belong to a still living genus called Adenita, which is known for its incredible freeze-tolerant capabilities. The freezing process that allowed these creatures to survive for all this time would have been relatively slow, but somehow, and the researchers were not entirely sure how, these rotifers have a mechanism that enables their cells and organs to withstand the formation of ice crystals in their bodies. Needless to say, this extraordinary discovery has some fascinating implications for future research into cryogenics, as well as for how life might have evolved and survived on other worlds, such as those with extreme freezing conditions. But these rotifers aren't even the oldest animals to have survived frozen in permafrost. As you may remember from my last Frozen Creatures video, researchers also discovered 46,000-year-old nematode worms in Siberian permafrost that reanimated and began reproducing. Makes you wonder what else might be hiding in these ancient soils, as the permafrost continues to melt and more microscopic organisms emerge. Moving back to a very dead prehistoric frozen creature, the next example we have is another bird. This one's a lot smaller than a moa, but also much older. Once more, it's the frozen expanses of Siberia that have yielded this extraordinary find. In February 2020, a team of paleontologists and geneticists published a study on the discovery of a small frozen bird that died between 44 and 49,000 years ago. This bird is a horned lark, Eremophila alpestris, a species that still lives today and can be found all across the northern hemisphere. Although it might not seem as spectacular as a woolly rhino or mammoth mummy, I think this is a tremendously exciting discovery. This is an ancient representative of a modern species, meaning that scientists have been able to study the genetic evolution of these birds across the past 40,000 years thanks to this find. The mummified little bird was uncovered in 2018 at a site in Siberia where a series of tunnels had been hydraulically mined into the permafrost by fossil ivory hunters, people in search of preserved mammoth tusks, which they can then sell for a substantial profit. The bird's body was found some 150 meters into one of these tunnels, approximately 7 meters below the ground surface. So this was one deeply buried mummy. The carcass itself is almost entirely intact. All the different feathers are beautifully preserved, and its little legs with their small claws are still there. If you didn't know how old this bird was, you genuinely might think it had died only a few days ago and been covered in a bit of mud. The scientists who studied the bird took some of its tissues and applied DNA extraction techniques to map out the creature's genome, eventually yielding a reconstructed genome of the bird's mitochondria. From this, they managed to get a partial gene that can be used to identify bird species, allowing them to match this specimen with modern horned larks. Moreover, this genetic analysis even revealed that the prehistoric lark belonged to a population that was actually ancestral to 2 of the modern subspecies of horned larks. One of these is found in Scandinavia and northern Russia, while the other inhabits steppe environments in Mongolia, China, and Kazakhstan. It appears that these modern subspecies evolved from this ancestral population around the time of the Pleistocene-Holocene transition, approximately 12 to 11,000 years ago, as significant environmental changes occurred when these ancient mixed steppe and tundra ecosystems became more stratified into the modern biomes, with tundra confined to the north, taiga in the middle, and steppe further south. The lark populations in each changing environment therefore diverged into their own distinct subspecies from this ancestral ancient Pleistocene lark population. It's absolutely astonishing to think that we can tell all of this detail about the specifics of horned lark evolution across thousands of years, because of this one very fortunately preserved specimen. The discovery of this horned lark is also a poignant reminder that the wildlife we see around us today is but a fraction of what the world was once home to. Just a few tens of thousands of years ago, the blink of an eye in relation to the total history of life on our planet, all these seemingly fantastical creatures, mammoths, saber-toothed cats, gigantic sloths, were coexisting with animals that seem totally normal to us now, as we're very used to seeing them around today, such as small birds like the horned lark. It's important to remember our place in geological history, I think, and discoveries such as ancient versions of modern species really highlight where we stand in relation to the past. Finally, one of the most recent discoveries of a mummified mammoth in permafrost was the 2022 uncovering of a perfectly preserved baby in Canada's Yukon Territory. The calf is entirely intact, even after having been frozen in the ancient soil for more than 30,000 years. This is the most complete mummified mammoth ever found in North America, and is among the best preserved of any mammoth mummy, most of which come from Siberia. It was discovered after a gold miner working on Eureka Creek, south of Dawson City, hit the mummy with a bulldozer and stopped to investigate what it was. There, emerging from the melting mud, was a creature that had not been seen for 30,000 years. That must have been quite an exciting day at work. This mammoth was discovered in the traditional territory of the Trondek First Nation, who became involved with the excavation of the calf as the gold mining company, the First Nation, and the government of Yukon collaborated to extract the prehistoric body. As such, this baby mammoth was given the name Nunchorga, which means big baby animal, in the Han language spoken by the First Nation. Nunchorga is thought to have been female, and although there have yet to be any scientific studies published on her, it's going to be tremendously exciting when they are, as she's so complete that a lot of new information will undoubtedly be revealed about woolly mammoths. According to a news report from March of 2024, Nunchorga spent about a year and a half in a freezer in Dawson City, but was at that time due to be transported to Ottawa by a delegation of Indigenous elders. In Ottawa, the mammoth calf will undergo conservation treatment to clean her and vacuum freeze-dry her, making sure that she does not decay. Tissue samples will be extracted to allow scientists to study her genetics, and CT scans are also planned, in addition to work that will reconstruct the ancient environment she lived and died in. Currently, the plan appears to be to return Nunchorga to First Nation territory in Yukon after she has been stabilised, though the long-term decisions for her have not yet been announced. I think it's rather wonderful that this frozen baby mammoth, after humans have taken care of her body and ensured that her legacy will remain preserved for the future, will be returning to her home. And the connection that the people of the Trondek First Nation clearly feel with this calf is beautiful to see. It's refreshing in a way to hear that this ancient baby is being treated with such love and respect. It's sometimes easy to forget that these were real, living beings, and it's nice to see that Nunchorga's remains will be taken care of in such a way. I'm really looking forward to the papers that will eventually come from the study of Nunchorga, and to learn more about the story of this individual. What did she eat when she was alive? How is she related to other mammoth populations? And how did she end up losing her life and becoming entombed in permafrost for all these years? Whatever the answers end up being, there's no doubt that Nunchorga is a seriously incredible discovery that will provide us with a unique window into what our world was like more than 30,000 years ago. So, there are 5 examples of strange prehistoric creatures that were found frozen in ice, or mummified in caves. I hope you enjoyed learning about them. I certainly did. Whenever I make a video on frozen prehistoric animals, it's like stepping back in time for a little while. These organisms are so insanely well preserved that we really can look at faces from the past. Although it can be quite sad that these animals died all those years ago in quite terrible ways, I hope that by making these videos, I'm helping to keep their legacies alive a little longer, as more people come to know these ancient beings. Except in the case of the Rotifers. Nothing's going to stop those Rotifers, not even 24,000 years in the ice. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to my other channel, 7 Days of Science. Over on this channel, my co-presenters and I make weekly videos covering all the most fascinating science news of the past week. So if you'd like a good way to keep up to date with the latest discoveries, you might like what we do over there. We also have a Patreon page where you can support us in return for some fun bonus content. Please do like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it, and be sure to press that bell icon so you don't miss our next upload, and so you can learn more about our world, its history, and the wonderful life that surrounds us all.